Man, I love that song. That musical intro was the Standstills and the first part of their 2018 hit Wild from the album Badlands. A huge thanks to them for letting me use this as the theme for our show. The Standstills are Johnny Fox, guitar and vocals, Renee Couture, drums, Brandon Millen, bass and vocals. They're based in Oshawa, Ontario, and you can find them at thestandstills.com. Welcome to the very first episode of the Backstage Kitchen Podcast, where culinary craft, creativity, and culture takes center stage. Today is Thursday, December 4th, 2025, and we're launching this show with a look at the moments shaping the food world this week. Chef birthdays, new openings, a Michelin Star update, and some local restaurant highlights that are driving conversations in professional kitchens everywhere. But the heart of today's episode is our featured guest. We're heading into the core of Nova Scotia's farm-to-table movement with a chef who represents place, purpose, and patience in every plate he creates. Chef Dave Smart, the culinary force behind Bessie Northhouse, is known for his hyper-seasonal tasting menus, his connection to the land, foraging walks, wood smoke technique, and the kind of maritime hospitality that stays with you long after the meal is over. In this conversation, we dive into his story, his past, the ingredients and landscape that shaped his philosophy, and the rhythm of cooking in rural Nova Scotia. It's thoughtful, grounded, honest, and the perfect way to begin the journey of this podcast. So grab a coffee, settle in, and let's get into it. This is the Backstage Kitchen Podcast. This week on the Backstage Kitchen Podcast, we're celebrating the birthday of one of the most influential voices in modern North American cooking, Chef Kristen Kish, born December 1st, 1983. Kish is more than a chef. She's a culinary storyteller whose work blends fine dining technique with cultural introspection, identity exploration, and a fresh contemporary approach to hospitality. She first rose to prominence after winning Top Chef Season 10, becoming the only the second woman to win the title and the first chef of Asian descent to take the crown. A milestone that helped shift how food television presented talent in diversity. Her impact didn't stop there. In 2023, Kristen returned to Top Chef as a new host, succeeding Padma Lakshmi and bringing her signature calm, thoughtful, chef-to-chef interview style to the franchise. She's experienced on Iron Chef, Fast Foodies, Netflix food series, and co-hosted 36 Hours of the Travel Channel, earning a reputation for elegant, intimate culinary storytelling. In the kitchen, Kish's style is unmistakable, precise, structured, modern technique, French fundamentals, Korean soul, and a touch of Midwestern heart. She's known for refined seafood dishes, aromatic broths and dashi, steam-driven cooking, and plates that, well, look like works of art. Emotionally expressive without being pretentious, Kristen Kish continues to refine what leadership and creativity looks like in today's culinary world. A chef, host, educator, and advocate shaping a more inclusive and emotionally intelligent kitchen culture. Happy birthday, Kristen. Let's do another birthday shout out to Salmon Nosrat. Hey, we're sending a big birthday shout out to Salmon, born November 7th, one of the most influential culinary educators of our time. She's the chef behind the best-selling Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, the hit Netflix series, and a global movement towards joyful, intuitive cooking. Salmon's signature style blends simplicity, generosity, and deep culinary wisdom, all delivered within the warmth that made her a beloved voice in kitchens everywhere. Happy birthday, Salmon. And our last birthday shout out is to Chef Philippe Echebest. So we're celebrating his birthday when he was born on December 2nd, one of France's most iconic and electrifying culinary personalities. He's a Michelin-starred chef, champion of French craftsmanship, and the commanding presence behind Cauchemar en Cuisine and Top Chef France. Known for his passion, precision, unwavering standards, he remains one of the true powerhouses of modern French gastronomy. Joyeux anniversaire, Chef Echebest. Throughout the year, Michelin Guide updates drop like thunder. A tiny red book can make or break careers. Stars earned, dreams achieved, stars lost, tears in the walk-in. Perfection is beautiful and brutal, and that's reality of chasing stars. So I'm going to highlight a little bit about the Michelin Star news. Anyone who's not aware of it, Michelin is a world-renowned guide that brings people to fantastic culinary destinations, not just culinary, but, hotels and just places of interest too, created many, many years ago in France to actually get people to drive around more, is basically the Coles Notes version on that. It was a magazine in Michelin shops where you could find places of interest that were above and beyond, exceptional even. And it's broken down into a star system, quite frankly. 1 star, exceptional cuisine or value, worth a trip. 2 stars, above and beyond, like an absolute experience. And then 3 stars, which is, basically absolute perfection if one can, achieve such an impossible thing. So this year, there's some cool changes, because in Canada, we now have 3 cities that fall under the Michelin umbrella. Well, not just 3 cities, but 3 provinces essentially. Ontario, Quebec, and British Columbia, primarily Vancouver, Montreal, Quebec City, and Toronto area. So the highly anticipated Michelin Guides results came out, and they're announced, periodically throughout the year at different areas. It's not like every book is launched and released at the same time, but I'm just going to focus mainly on the stars in Canada, on the restaurants, and a few of those destinations you might want to check out. So it is a prestigious honor, and it's been a significant year for Canadian gastronomy. So first up, the Toronto region in 2025 guide. The results dropped on September 18th, and the big story here is the promotion of Restaurant Pearl Rosette, located in Lincoln, Ontario, has made the jump from 1 to an impressive 2 Michelin stars. This French-focused contemporary restaurant is being lauded for its superb cuisine. Well, that's fantastic. And in Toronto, saw the new addition of a 1-star list of Akin, recognized for its innovative Asian and contemporary fare. And notable mentions goes to Sundays in Uxbridge, which earned a new Michelin Green Star for its commitment to sustainable practice. So that's amazing. I'll talk a little bit about how many stars are in Canada, but really there are so many great restaurants that do not fall under the Michelin program. But if you want to check out what these benchmarks are, the Michelin Guide is a great resource. So moving west, Vancouver 2025 Michelin Guide was unveiled on October 2nd. The city is buzzing with its own set of new distinctions and special awards. Vancouver had 12 restaurants awarded 1 star each. There are currently no 2 or 3 star venues listed in this edition, but a couple of them is Barbera, a nice contemporary place, Burdock & Co., Kissa Tanto, which is a nice fusion cuisine, Asayoshi, some Japanese cuisine, a huge Japanese culture in Vancouver, as most of us know. But new in 2025 is Simibyaka Arashi, a Japanese yakitori omakase, newly awarded the star. Sushi Hyun, Japanese okomakase, also awarded the star. And Sushi Medusa, Japanese cuisine, that's all part of the 2025 list. And finally, we look back at the inaugural Quebec Michelin 2025 guide, which debuted earlier this year, actually, on May 15th. Quebec City's Tenière stole the show as the only restaurant in the province to achieve a remarkable 2-star rating. So that's 2 2-star ratings in all of Canada. So we do not have a 3-star restaurant. I'm not saying that they're not deserving of it, but the stars can, like them or hate them. They are what they are. So for food lovers across the country, these guides offer a fantastic roadmap to some of the best dining experiences Canada has to offer. So in its inaugural Quebec selection of the Michelin Guide, a total of 9 restaurants in the province received Michelin stars in 2025. So here's the breakdown. 2 stars for Tenière in Quebec City, and there was 1 star for 8 other restaurants. So there was Arvi in Quebec City, a nice modern tasting restaurant. Quebec Club Privé, a nice, very small, intimate setting, nice private club in Quebec City. In Montreal, there's Mastard, a nice seasonal carte blanche menu, and Cébéon, focused on vegetables and refined contemporary cuisine. So really, it's amazing. But let's also be realistic. There are some fantastic food destinations that are not part of the Michelin Guide. And some chefs have even given back their stars. Chef Marco White, the renowned chef who actually trained Gordon Ramsay, gave back his stars. He says, I'm not quoting him, word for word, but basically he didn't want to be judged by people that couldn't make the cuisine that he was making. And it's a fair point. Although not all chefs do agree with that. That's fine. It can actually increase revenue by a lot. And so it is very valued in many, many cultures. Back to Marco, he also was renowned for being the first Michelin starred chef in London. So, hats off to him, and hats off to him for standing up and say, hey, you know what? I don't want these stars. But if you value it, great. And if you don't, well, that's okay too. And now we're going to recap a couple of new openings this year, one internationally in Montreal and the other closer to home here, where I'm from, Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, in Halifax, actually. So let's talk a little bit about Montreal, a new opening restaurant just in November called Kif Kif. It's a neighborhood restaurant brought to you by executive chef Dan Geltner. It's an exploration of refined Middle Eastern cuisine rooted in the depths of his grandma's recipe box. So he's rooted in Montreal and inspired by the flavors and the spirit of Middle Eastern cooking. He says our food reflects the seasons, our local producers, and the people who make up our kitchens. The result is a menu shaped by many influences, familiar, vibrant, and distinctly our own. So Kif Kif, more simply, it simply means, it's a French expression, well, it's the same, a little of this, a little of that. It's like going into a restaurant and saying, so what would you have? The roast beef or maybe the chicken? Kif Kif. It's good either way. They're fantastic. So I'm really excited about this. Chef Dan's a good friend of mine, and he will be on an upcoming show in 2026. A fantastic guy, very passionate, unpretentious, and some great cooking chops as well. So if you're heading into Montreal anytime in the next, well, hopefully forever, check them out on St. Catherine Street West. It's at 4124 St. Catherine Street West. They're open Wednesday to Saturday from 5:30 p.m. to 11 p.m., or you can check them up on the World Wide Web at kifkifmtl.com. So that's my highlight for heading to Montreal. But let's look at a restaurant that opened up in the last year here in Halifax, which just kind of got a little fun twist to it with some traditional and definitely an interactive fun experience you can have with your friends and family, of course. I'm talking about Creme Halifax. It's the newest restaurant from the Beyond Hospitality Group that brought you Asia, Sea Smoke, and of course everyone's favorite Vandal Donuts. It's basically an experience of elegance in the afternoon tea at Creme, where tradition meets modern sophistication. They have carefully curated tea menus. They feature an array of artisanal blends, perfectly complemented by tiers of delicate finger sandwiches, fresh baked scones, and exquisitely crafted sweets. So whether you're making a special occasion or simply including it as a moment of calm, their afternoon tea experience often brings a sense of refinement to the day. It's available for dine-in as a beautifully packaged takeaway experience. In addition to that, Creme is also open for breakfast from 8 to 11 a.m., lunch from 11 to 4. Afternoon tea is served all day from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. And they also have a wonderful shareable menu with cocktails from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. So they are located downtown Halifax, right on the waterfront, very close in proximity to many other fine restaurants that we find in Halifax that we have an abundance of lately. A little history on afternoon tea. Afternoon tea, it's a British tradition that originated in the 1840s as a way for the upper class to bridge the gap between a late lunch and dinner. The ritual involves a light meal served usually between 3:30 and 5 p.m., but you can get this all day at Creme. And it consists of tea, often black tea like Earl Grey or English breakfast, finger sandwiches, scones with clotted cream and jam, and cakes and pastries. It's sort of evolved from a private social event for ladies into a larger scale, more formal occasion that is now typically enjoyed as a special indulgence or celebration. So if you're out for the holidays, we're in the thick of the holiday season right now, maybe make a reservation. You can reserve online, and their website is halifax.com. It's kind of exciting. I like that traditional, and their menu looks fantastic. They got a nice blend of traditional French and Italian. It's got a continental vibe to it, but very, very classic European influenced. And I'm going to go in for tea myself sometime. So hopefully we'll see you there. Well, switching to local updates in the culinary scene, something that's very strong and vibrant here in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Air Canada has released its 2025 Best New Restaurants list. with Halifax Mystic claiming first place, followed by Montreal's Le Violon in second and Toronto's Ekin in third. The awards, now in their 25th year, recognize culinary innovations across Canada. More than 30 restaurants were evaluated by anonymous culinary experts based on all aspects of the dining experience. Mystic, led by chef Malcolm Campbell, features tasting menus that combine maritime ingredients with global techniques in a waterfront setting. He is best known for a signature dish featuring the wolf eel, a fish that is not a true eel, but part of the wolffish family. His wolf eel dish has been recognized as the 2025 Dish of the Year, celebrated for its balance of rustic and ritzy qualities and its representation of the Atlantic coast. So Mystic, this waterfront gem, blends coastal warmth, refined elegance, delivering a seafood-forward menu rooted in Nova Scotia's rich waters. Signature dishes, highly sustainable, locally sourced ingredients, and maritime-inspired flavors. They marry inventive technique with timeless tradition. Okay, and here's a little shout out for our guest today. Returning as the #1 best place to eat in Nova Scotia according to Curated Food and Drink magazine, Bessie Northhouse continues to captivate diners at its rural farmhouse setting in Canning, Nova Scotia. A truly intimate experience hosted by owners Susan Meldrum and Chef David Smart. The 140-year-old farmhouse seats only 12 people. In the kitchen, Chef Smart taps into the incredible bounty of the Annapolis Valley, crafting hyper-local, ever-changing tasting menus, which were each course shines a light on much deserving ingredients. Reservations are needed, and the updated system now makes bookings a table here much easier. So it's much easier to get reservations, but they are closed for the season, so they will be opening up the reservation listings, I do believe, in April for seatings next year in May. So Susan and David enjoy a well-deserved rest. For those of you who do not know, Bessie North House is actually on Bessie North Road, 23 Bessie North Road in Canning, and their website is bessienorthhouse.com. So yeah, check that out. There's been many good write-ups about that, and I've seen this food, and I've had the pleasure of speaking with Dave today, and that kind of takes us up to our first guest on here, which is Chef Dave Smart, who I hope you will enjoy hearing from as much as I did. He's a wonderful guy, so that's where we're going to head to now, sit in and have a little cozy chat with Chef Dave Smart. I want to thank you, Chef Dave Smart, for coming in today on the Backstage Kitchen and talking a little bit about, your career and being a chef in Bessie North House. And I guess first thing I want to ask is you got into cooking a little later in life. Like you had a career even before you got into kitchen. Can you tell me a little bit of what it was like before, and then how you got into it and made you make the leap?
Yeah, I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. I mean,
Yeah,
I tell the story a lot.
love it.
I started out life as a mechanical engineer
Hmm.
and a very long and successful career doing engineering and project management. And a lot of my free time was always filled with cooking. So I always enjoyed the evening task of making dinner. And then the friend group I had at the time would get together and drink expensive wine and make tasty food. So I basically got involved with these guys. And the more and more we cooked together, the more and more I realized I was kicking them out of the kitchen, and I was doing more and more of the food. A long story short, my marriage at the time had ended, and then in the process of regrouping and rebuilding myself and selling all the marital assets and whatnot, I was able to take some time off of working as an engineer. All of my free time got filled with more and more cooking. So I found myself calling up my friends and going, "Hey, what are you guys doing tonight? Can I come over and make you dinner?" And I did that for years. And it was on the urging of a good friend of mine. He says, when you talk about engineering, he says, you're pretty switched on. He says, but when you talk about food and cooking, you're a different animal. And I was like, really? He goes, yeah, you might want to take this seriously. So he urged me to kind of explore it a little bit more. And, he says, go to some culinary schools and check it out and see what you think. So I did a little bit of traveling around. I went to George Brown. I went to over to Charlottetown, over to Canadian Culinary Institute. And I went up to Ottawa to the Cordon Bleu campus, and I spent a day there to just kind of check it out. And then I was like, I realized is like, this is what I need to do. So I packed up shop and I moved to Ottawa and I went to Cordon Bleu and went through their culinary program there. I worked for a short period of time in Ottawa as a couple of restaurants. And then I came back here and, put up my first sign when I bought a restaurant in Wolfville, and I ran that for about 2.5 years, similar to your story in Fairview. And it was the most incredible, humbling, and oh my God experience I've ever had in my life. I don't begrudge 1 second of it. The amount of learning and self reflection. And, it was the springboard that got me to where we're at now with Bessie Northhouse. Coming at this world through engineering has been really interesting because I'm a spreadsheet guy. I live and breathe on spreadsheets. So I spend a lot of time under the hood of how restaurants work, how the money moves, and where the value proposition lies, and where the contribution margin lies. And it basically, when you distill it all down, you basically get Bessie Northhouse in a lot of respects.
Yeah,
So
I love your philosophy about less is more in a sense, especially when it comes to staffing and when you're doing your service. Bessie House, for anyone who doesn't know, or Bessie North House doesn't know, it's seatings for 12 only, and you have a special philosophy behind that rather than having a full service restaurant. Is that true?
yeah. Yeah, so we basically it's a set menu. So I've always loved tasting menus. One of my early culinary heroes was Thomas Keller from the French Laundry. So I was enamored at this whole idea of doing tasting menus, even when I was back in culinary school. It was the first cookbook I ever bought was the French Laundry at Home, and it absolute classic. I still refer to it on a regular basis. So I've always loved the idea of doing tasting menus. Even when we had the restaurant in Wolfville, we would always do dinner events with tasting menus. It was always kind of calling me. I realized as part of my spreadsheet analysis, if I could control the menu variability and the food prep and the flow of service, I could do the food delivery I wanted to and do it without a lot of staff and do it without a lot of overhead. So it was kind of an underpinning of the Bessie Northhouse philosophy from a restaurant perspective. Like you mentioned, we have 12 seats, we have a set menu. People come in, they all start dinner at the same time, and the courses all come out at the same time. And it
It's
allows me to do a lot with just me in the kitchen.
Yeah, 100%. I get it. And my offsite events are like that as well. So I can take 2 days and prep and then execute when I go into people's homes. So yeah, it's a very similar thing. It's almost like doing a function every night of the week, and
Yeah,
you have a couple of days early in the week to kind of get ready, procure your food, make sure everything's in, everything's set, and it's like doing one big mise en place that you update daily and execute. I love it. It's how I enjoy doing food too. Line cooking is a special beast, and I've
it's
done it, I cannot stress, and and many of the chefs that I know tell you what a mental and physical toll it has on the body and mind, right?
It's crazy. I've never met, coming at this world from engineering where
Mm,
you stand around the water cooler and you talk about how busy you are
yeah.
versus you're on the line and the ticket machine starts printing. And then it's the most intense ramp up of stress and a high level of stress. And then at the end of the night, when you're breaking the kitchen down and cleaning it, it's all gone. And then you're like, yeah, I can't wait to do it again.
It
It's,
really, yeah, yeah.
it's
It's like
really
it's like
wild.
it's like I always compare it to, like, it's almost like being an athlete, you get pumped up,
Yeah.
hockey players, they get pumped up, and you just feel it and you feel it, and then at the end of your service 2 or 3 hours later, you're like, "Whoa, what just happened there?" And it's like you have the afterglow, right? And it's a powerful thing. It's that adrenaline, I think, that hooks a lot of us because I mentioned to you earlier when we first get to know each other, it's kind of a love-hate. You love it, and I don't think any deep thinker would like, "Oh, I'd never put myself through that." But then you do it, and then you love it, right? It's weird. It's so hard to explain. Wow, that's really cool, man. So I do love what you're doing, and I'll have to get out there. It's interesting. You might know. You talked about your engineering background.
Yeah.
Another chef is actually who's from Dartmouth, Andy Burns. I don't know if you've heard of Daniel Burns, but he was
He was that had a place down in New York.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
His background, he went to school for engineering, I do believe, and
Okay.
and he this I don't know if it was if it sort of branched off from going to school, but when you're in university, a lot of the young chefs get into the business because they get into kitchens because if you got if you're organized, you got a good set of hands, they'll hire you, right? So I think that's how it worked for him. And then I think he did some staging in Europe and worked in Noma and then did his thing. So it's really interesting. You spoke in pragmatic terms about being an engineer.
Well, as a question I get a lot. A lot of people go, well, how do you make such a leap to go from engineering to chefing? And my answer, upon reflection, if the way I look at it, it's the exact same toolbox with a different sticker on the outside, right? Because there's a lot of things I do in the process of executing in the kitchen that all the same skills came from executing as an engineer and a project manager. I mentioned before, like I'm a spreadsheet guy, and it's a spreadsheet that allows me to organize myself and to be able to execute an 8-course tasting menu by myself at a reasonable, every night of the week kind of thing, or when we're open. It's a lot to ask, but if I wasn't organized and I didn't have those skills as an engineer, it would be really hard to do. So they're very similar, like incredibly similar.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's interesting. I look at how the mind works. And when I was a young culinary student at 20 years old, I was all over the place because my brain was still developing. What's interesting is I find when some of us, when we go back to school as an adult, if you will,
I'm still waiting to get there.
me too. Listen, I I don't know what I want to do when I grow up, but yeah,
Yeah.
exactly right. We're all a bunch of junior kids, anyways, aren't we? The bunch of I say we run little pirate ships. Did you like it's amazing and remarkable for me to see how well. Okay, cool. So listen, I have something that I started called the Chef Live 10 signature interview questions. It's just like a top 10 list of things that I go through. There's no wrong answers. Are you comfortable with me going through this and
Yeah, I
learning a
mean,
little
I
bit about?
made I
Yeah.
made notes. Some of them I really scratched my head on, but I think we'll see if we can tease out a creative answer.
Saying,
Yeah,
like I said, there's no wrong answers in this. It's just thought it'd be kind of fun to kind of, get a little quick repertoire. But we're already chatting like we've known each other for a long time, so I'm enjoying this. So, okay, so number one, every dish and every song starts somewhere. What's the first spark that gets your creativity cooking?
I'm a YouTube junkie. I do spend a little bit of time on Instagram, and I've got an unhealthy collection of cookbooks. Is the way I like to describe it. I spend a lot of time like on the visual and flipping through cookbooks, and I decompress by watching YouTube videos. And I'm always interested to see what other chefs are doing, what's happening at other restaurants around the world. The internet has made the world a very small place. And I can camp out through a YouTube channel and watch a three Michelin star restaurant execute dinner service. So I collect ideas that way, and whenever I see something that kind of grabs me, like I'll either screenshot it or make a note of it. I've also got a very large OneNote file on my phone, so I collect the ideas. That's kind of where it starts, and then on the other hand, then I bring in what my farmer sends me every week on Sunday. He sends out a spreadsheet with this is what I have available for you, and then I connect the two dots that way. So it starts with the inspiration from like the YouTube and the cookbooks, and then I take a look at okay, well, cabbage is coming out of the ground. Baby carrots are happening right now. We still have, there's not hasn't been a lot of frost, so I'm still getting like eggplants and tomatoes and that kind of thing. So it's those two things in kind of concert that basically create the menu or the dish ideas, and then I basically iterate from there.
Yeah, very cool. I it's neat to see some of the crossovers from my point of view too, and I do a lot of the same things. All right, number two, the secret ingredient, and I know it's funny. I've been asked this a million times before, but what's the one thing that defines your flavor? I know that's impossible to do. I get it, but in your food or your sound, what's the one thing that people might not notice right away, but it's something that's always there for you?
I scratched my head on this one a lot, to be honest, Richard. Um, but my wife and I were talking about this morning, and the word layers comes up a lot. Is it kind of things look really simple and straightforward at the beginning, but as you eat through the dish, there's multiple layers. I actually have gone so far, like the last couple of years, it's been a big thing of mine. I call it, I leave treasures in the dish. I love taking, like right now, we're doing a turbot dish, and I do like lemongrass, ginger, aerated like chowder broth. But I take all the flavors from the lemongrass ginger broth and I make a really bright fluid gel that I hide underneath it. So as you're eating through it, you get this really intense pop of the acidity, right? You get the lime, you get the lemongrass, you get the ginger. So I like layering stuff that way and not making it obvious. It's kind of like when I imagine a guest eating the dish, going through it, going, "Oh, this is really tasty," and all of a sudden getting that really bright bang of something, a complementary flavor or a contrasting flavor, but just I call it hiding treasures in the food. So it's kind of a little bit of a not necessarily a secret ingredient, but it's kind of a trademark that I would say is one of my things, and it speaks to my playful side, I guess.
That's cool, and I think it helps to have a good sense of humor in the kitchen, that's for
Yeah.
sure. Okay, so speaking of that, how do you handle the heat when things get intense creatively? Like, what do you do to push yourself? I mean, it sounds to me like you're already doing that, but is it something that just comes natural, or do you ever get complacent? But it'd probably be, hard to do that a day after day after day.
And I do get I get in the cycles of like analysis paralysis where it's like I need a second course for this menu next weekend, and I just get stuck on it. And the only real way I can really shake myself free is like I actually have to physically step away. Like my wife will say, "Okay, we're going for a drive. We'll go somewhere, or go into the city for noodles or something." Just physically get away from the space. Like leave the kitchen, leave my prep list behind. And then another thing I do when things get really intense is, I'll be stuck on the couch, elbows deep in cookbooks. And my wife will come in and she says, why don't you get suited up? Right? Put on my kitchen gear, put on the apron, turn the fan on in the kitchen, right? Start cooking. And that usually more often than not lubricates creativity. If I'm stuck in the world of cookbooks and the pragmatics of the spreadsheet, the creative juices are kind of jammed. But when I actually just get my knife out and start cutting stuff, sometimes that's all it takes to lubricate the creativity.
Yeah, we're prisoners of our own experience sometimes, and we've got to shake that up. I know I'm the same way. A new idea can come from a lot of different things, but you sometimes just got to get in the kitchen, and start trying stuff.
Yeah.
So when you're in the flow, when you're in the kitchen or you're prepping, whatever, what does that moment feel like for people who maybe aren't professional chefs? I mean, I know it's not a glib question, but it's something I've been asked before too. So what does it feel like to be, you know, in the moment of, like, let's just say, you're in the middle of your 7 courses on a Friday night, people out there and enjoying themselves. Do you feel that, or are you still like just into the moment of getting that?
I think the word that came to mind when I was going through the questions this morning was the word effortless almost when you're really in that flow state. As like you get to the end of service that night and you go, wow, I don't actually remember any of that. There was no teeth gnashing, there was no stress. It was just everything was, you were ready. You had spoons were all in the right place, the purees were all at the right temperatures, and everything just happens. And you get this beautiful, effortless flow state. And when you hit a night like that, you get to the end of service and you go, wow, that was amazing. I'm not tired, I'm not stressed, there's no sweat. Like we've all had those nights where you get to the end of it and you're spent, like physically and emotionally spent.
Like,
So, yeah.
call it the dance, and it
Yeah.
is.
I use that word a lot.
Yeah, it's funny how there's such a crossover of chefs who would use that experience, because it is like a dance. And the thing is, there's so many little steps and a lot of energy put into that dance. Learning it beforehand is being organized, and that if
100%.
and then
100%.
that is the trick. And if you're off by a bit, it can really throw a wrench in the service. Some of us can recover, some of us can't. But yeah, I've had nights where at the end of it, I'm like, you know what, that could have been a little smoother. I could have probably did it, but the audience may not know that, but you know it.
But you know it. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
This is an interesting one. Music is a big part of my life, which I love the whole underpinning of your podcast, the chef musician. Music has always been a big thing for me. But that being said, I don't have a straight answer because I'll find myself in the morning before I turn the fan on, before I do anything. I'll try to do as much and quiet as I possibly can. But my bread and butter music is I'm a child of the 80s,
Yeah,
right? And
me too.
I go to Spotify and I listen to Tears for Fears radio,
Oh,
believe
yeah.
it or not.
No, I love it.
And it's everything in that realm of music just speaks to my soul, right?
Totally.
But depending on the time of day and whether or not my wife is in the house or not, I do have my little segues into like Dream Theater. I love
Yeah,
Queensryche.
love Queens, right?
There's a band I got into about ten plus years ago, Pain of Salvation.
Check that out. I will check that out. Cool.
Remedy Lane, that
Okay.
album will change your life.
All right.
It is
I'm down.
so amazing. It's,
Thank you.
very proggy, but the writing and the performance is fantastic. But Pain of Salvation, and the album that I listen to all the time is called Remedy Lane. Highly recommended. Highly, highly recommended.
I will stream that today to check it out because I am always looking for a new buzz when it comes to music.
Yeah, and I want to hear your thoughts on it because it's a beautiful album. It's like you get those quintessential albums that kind of define, like Operation Mindcrime by Queensryche. Like, hello, right?
Takes me that takes me to an era of my life where things were perfect because
Yeah.
I didn't have responsibility. I got to see them open up and play all of Mindcrime when they came here. I think in '91.
I was at that concert. Every
You were
time they're
what?
here, I saw them.
Wasn't that amazing? Yeah, I saw
Oh
them
my god,
open up for Metallica too. That was just so great.
I was there. I was
Yeah,
gonna leave after they opened up. I was like, I'll stay for Metallica.
yeah, I know what you mean. I totally get it. Like, Queensrÿche was definitely my biggest draw, and I stuck around for the Metallica show. And I do love. Listen, by the way, Ride the Lightning is my favorite Metallica album. It's one of my favorite metal albums. And I'll just leave it at that. That's where my mind is when it comes to Metallica. But Queensrÿche, oh my God, I mean, and the new singer too, Todd Lalore. I think that say that right. He's nailing it, and they've put out some great albums in the last couple years too. To
Yeah,
me, that match the same energy that came out in the '80s.
yeah, it's big shoes to fill. I mean, Jeff Tate was an
Oh,
outrageous vocalist.
100%,
Outrageous. Yeah,
percent. Like, good, proggy, but yet melodic, and they wrote some sound stuff too. Just amazing. Well, that's cool. I'm glad. It's nice to have that energy and understanding of music because yeah, that's the kind of music I go to. I'm an '80s guy. I was born in '71, so
yeah,
I feel very grateful to have been growing up in that area or in that time frame. Sorry.
yeah, yeah. No, no.
What would you describe the taste of your food or your music? Like, if there was, I know it's not possible. It's like we try to process things down into these constructs, but what would you? And you don't have to use I put down sweet, smoky, spicy, whatever. But what would you describe the taste of your food? If you had to choose like one or two things.
Yeah, I think I added another one to your list,
Cool.
acid.
Yeah.
I got into acidity a couple years ago. It sounds weird when I say it like
Yeah.
that,
I love it.
but it's this whole idea about like getting the food flavors to pop with acid. So I think if I was there's almost like a trifecta of flavors to kind of describe the food, and it was like the sweet umami backbone with like this really bright acidic pop to kind of light everything up, and that's kind of where I'm in my happy place when I hit that spot where those 3 flavors are just vibing correctly. You We did a dish, this summer, it was a tuna crudo, and I did this, broth with tomato water that I reduced, and I finished it with some ginger syrup and some lime juice, and a little bit of ponzu, and a tiny bit of, a ginger scallion dashi that I'd made, and it was the most incredible thing that I've ever tasted, right? But it was that perfect synergy between the sweet umami acid, right? And then topped I love using herb oils. I just love the flavor and the texture they give. So it was just this beautiful. It looked beautiful. It tasted beautiful. It was bright. It was complex, and it kind of made the tuna shine. So it was a highlight of my summer. But I think it really encapsulates where I'm at now with my food and how I create dishes and put flavors together.
I love that when you were talking about that, it took you to that place, and that's the excitement that I think chefs get from creating that food because it wasn't ego, it was pure excitement. I mean that genuinely, and I've
Yeah,
been
thank you.
around. You're welcome. And I've been in kitchens long enough, I think, to know the difference between that. Like when you truly are excited about a dish, it has nothing to do about you. You were excited about the dish
Yeah.
and the flavors that it created. And I think that's important for people to notice when they're in industry is like, what is this about? Is this about the food or is it about you? And I find that the most approachable and successful chefs are the ones where it's about the food. Anyways, that's just my opinion.
No, I
Very
appreciate
cool.
that. Yeah.
Very, very cool. You know what I was doing while you were describing it? I was trying to taste it in my head. Do you ever do that when you read something? Do you ever
Yes.
do that?
I do
You
that
get
all the time.
you start to roll with it. You're like in your head, you're going, okay, and my mouth is actually salvo. I'm getting a little drool, and I'm like going, all right, yeah, I could totally feel that. I'm hitting that, right? I mean, you can't really taste it, but you can almost taste it. There's like some sort of sensory thing. But anyways, that's exactly what I was going through when you're describing that tuna dish, and I think that's something that a lot of chefs and cooks in the industry can share, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. So What are you hungry for right now, creatively or personally? Like, what are the things that you're really working on for yourself or for the restaurant? Or it could be anything. Like I said, there's no wrong answers here.
Um, I was really kind of scratching my head on this one a lot because I was thinking creatively where we're going, like
Hmm.
food wise, and I was kind of getting into chef mode.
Hmm.
But my wife pointed out to me, she says, "What is it you're really looking forward to right now?" And I said, in all honesty, I just want a little bit of time off. This is a full on venture. I'm the only one in the kitchen. I'm working 6+ days a week. And they're long days. I'm on my feet just to kind of execute what we execute. And I love it more than I can't see myself doing anything else. But I'm really looking forward to some time to charge the creative batteries and actually have that end of the season kind of reflection time and kind of go, now we're excited about the next season. Like when we're shut down in the winter, like we can't wait to open up again in the spring. But it is, we put a lot of our heart and soul into the business. It's just my wife and I. And it's just like you're kind of, physically and emotionally depleted at the end of it. So I'm looking forward to a little bit of a break in all honesty.
And I think that's healthy, and I think that the chefs that realize that are actually the ones that are gonna stick with it longer because you do need a break, and it's more common now, I find. I've got a friend of mine, Rob, who runs a place in Toronto, and I'll have him on the show down the road too. I met him years ago. You know how it is. When we meet other chefs and cooks, you just kinda stay friends.
Yeah,
He closes down his place for 3 weeks a year, and anyone that comes on board, they know that, you know what, we're gonna be shut down then, so not everyone likes a predetermined vacation, but if you're a lifer in this business, you actually look
kind
forward
of
to it
need it.
because
Yeah.
you do. So I get it. So when do you take time off? Obviously, winter, there's a lot less going on as far as local produce goes. But when do you and your wife take some time together for yourselves?
Yeah, our season goes from beginning of May to the end of November, so we have 4 weeks left in the year, and then it's basically like December through to April is like we're in relax mode. And that being said, like I find myself doing pop ups. I find myself cooking through what's left in the freezer and trying out new things. So I spend a lot of time collecting ideas throughout the season. It's like when we're closed, I'm going to work on this. And so there's always one or two culinary projects that I undertake every winter. Like last winter I said, well, I'm going to teach myself how to make chocolates. So we offer chocolates at the end of dinner service as a petit fours. And we were buying them from Russo and Halifax, who make the most amazing chocolates. But it's like I'm gonna try to do this, right? And it's one of those kind of things like it's got one ingredient, but goddamn, she's tough. Like it's not straightforward. But I spent the winter working on it, and I'm happy with where I got to.
Yeah, the chocolate work is something it's like little mini steps. It's really,
Yeah,
even just to temper chocolate properly is a lot more difficult. And not only that, it changes every time depending on a
no
lot of
kidding,
different things, right?
no
So,
kidding.
and it's almost like when you're making dough. Like if you made dough before, or whatever, you had this one recipe, you can almost do it, without even thinking about it. But you can notice little changes in like humidity or whatever like that, and maybe something does need just a little bit more flour or a little less. Like the flow, the living tissue that is the flour will tell you, or the dough, right? It's one of those hard things to write a methodical directions to because it does change a little bit.
No, agreed.
All right. What if you had a chance to collaborate with anyone? I don't want to say chef for you, but maybe it's a musician. Who would it be, and what would you like to create together? And that doesn't have to be a dish. That could be like a pop up. It could be a
There's a couple chefs that I find really inspiring. I've always loved one of my favorite cookbooks I go to all the time is restaurant out in California called Manresa. I think it's closed now. Is David Kinch. There's an episode of Mind of a Chef. The episode's called 25 Bites. I don't know if you recall that one. I watch it over and over and over again, but it's his whole philosophy of like he does this tasting menu and he says it's 25 perfectly architected bites, right? And I love the philosophy and the underpinning of that. And there's another chef, a restaurant called Single Thread. They're in Napa, and it's Kyle Connaughton. Both of them, they make incredibly beautiful food, rooted in French cuisine with a definite Asian base notes in it. So I think that's kind of where my food is kind of moving to over the last couple of years. So it really speaks to me. So as far as like collaborating with them, I would just love to spend time creating food with them. I just find them inspiring. Just if I'm stuck, I'll pick up the Manresa book and just leaf through it, right? I'm hoping that Kyle Connaughton puts out a book because I want to buy it, right? So I think their food is beautiful. I love the way they architect dishes, their flavors, like everything about it. And I just love, I don't care who you are or what you do. If you love doing this, like I will talk your ear off because I just love sharing ideas with people. These guys, I view them at operating at a very high level, and I love the food sensibility. So I would just love to collaborate with them on, let's do a menu together and just see what I could learn and what I could pull from that as far as the food.
It's inspiring, I so this may seem related, might not. I like to golf. Am I a great golfer? Not really. But when I golf with better people, I always pick something up. So
Yeah,
I know
absolutely.
it's one of those things where when I was younger and my ego drove my palate, I was often a little intimidated and looked at competition with trepidation. I don't anymore. In fact, if I didn't find other chefs that were more evolved, how would I move forward? And that's the
Exactly. No, I have not.
validate it and what have you. And it's also nice it's like talking with a buddy about something you really care about, whether it's cars. I have a friend of mine, Rob, who he loves old classic cars. He has an old 1970 Galaxy. It's his baby. He's put a lot of money in it. He'll never get it back, but he doesn't care. It's because he loves it, right? So it's always interesting, but the Charlie Trotter story is a really good documentary, and it doesn't hold back on his story. And I mean, I was always a fan of him too. And as I was an apprentice from '91 to '94. Charlie was kind of the big guy. Him and Marco White, and we weren't quite global yet with the Food Network and all that stuff. But those were two of the big ones, right?
Yeah.
And then Thomas Keller and some of these other people came afterwards. But yeah, it's really good. You should check it out.
Okay, I'll definitely do that.
Yeah. So, what's the most memorable meal or food experience you've ever had? Um, and this could be like with your travels, I guess. This question could be directed towards a chef or a musician. But what's the most memorable meal you've ever had, and where, and why? And would you like to talk about that, maybe?
There was I made notes of a couple restaurants that I've eaten at over the years. And the first one that came to mind, and my wife and I still talk about it, and I believe this restaurant's now closed, but it was in Old Montreal. The restaurant was called Pastel, and we just were at Old Montreal for a long weekend. This was years ago, and we took ourselves out to dinner. It was a tasting menu, but like as soon as you walked up to the restaurant, it just had the right vibe. It was in Old Montreal. The building was brick, big windows, high ceilings, and the restaurant had this incredible vibe. The service was beautiful, the food was beautiful, the music, like everything would just hit. It was all perfect. And we still talk about this black truffle chai wan mushi they served, and they paired it with this beautiful sake. And it's kind of the benchmark when we talk about food and we talk about service. We always go back to that meal and that dish.
Wow.
And my wife, I'll call her Susan now, because it's like I'm referring to her as my wife. She's
No,
she's
no,
a
no. I
pretty
get it.
important part of this. Susan doesn't remember much in the way of food, but she always talks about that truffle chaiwan mushi.
Cool.
So that's one thing that's kind of like I have not let that one go. I've got a crazy memory for dishes when I eat out, but that one has been very firmly anchored. But it was a whole experience at this place in Montreal. It was beautiful. And then another place that really made an impact on me is a restaurant in London called Evelyn's Table. It's a one-star Michelin, and it's kind of like they describe it as a speakeasy. So there's this beautiful pub in Soho, and you go in. The main floor is your standard English pub. They have this really beautiful wine bar upstairs, and then down in the basement, in this tiny little basement area, they have this like 11 or 12 seat chef's counter. And there's three chefs down there behind the counter making this beautiful food. And they have two sommeliers on the floor basically doing beverage pairings for you. And the food and the beverage side of the experience was just astounding. And it's the same thing. It was like it was the vibe, it was the space, it was the service, it was the attention to detail on the food. And the pairings are beautiful. And you kind of leave and you go, that was just absolutely magical.
Yeah,
And
it's an experience. It's not just sustenance. Like sometimes I'll eat something just to kind of get through the day for prep, but it's not an experience. But that's an experience. That's I get it 100%, and I love it. And I'm thinking back to my days and doing different experiences with Michelin restaurants. But I got to go to Danny Burns' place in Brooklyn before
nice.
just before he got his star, right? So my wife and I at the time, like you, I've had a first relationship, and it didn't work out. But hey, that's life. Move forwards. But we were in New York just for the long weekend, and I actually reached out to Danny via Facebook, and I said, "Look, your dad taught me chemistry." So his dad was a teacher.
Oh,
Remember, do you remember Mr. Burns?
yes.
That's his son.
What?
Yeah, I know, I know.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that crazy? That full
I did
around that we
not
were.
know. I did not
Uh,
know.
yeah, so Danny Burns, so we went to what is now called Woodlawn High, but for all of us, it'll always be PA or Prince Andrew. Yeah, Danny Burns, he started out in engineering. He was in Vancouver for a while. I don't know what university he went to. I don't have my notes in front of me. But anyways, I went there and it was the same idea. So it was a place called Torst, and in the back was called Luxus. And that was the tasting area. So we had this really cool kind of pub vibe that didn't even have, and everything was beer or cider pairings. And what was really cool about that is some of the beer was actually made by like traveling gypsies and then taken to a cannery and canned. I mean, it's
No
all on the
way.
yeah, it's all on the up and up. I wish I remembered the name of it, but it was a really neat experience. So it just lends back to those same experiences. Now that place is closed now too. I think Danny opened it up, closed it, and at the last I heard, he was working for a family as a private chef. So you know what? Sometimes we need a break from restaurants too.
100%. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we just kind of talked around the whole thing about,
Yeah,
experience. Like we
yeah,
talk about the things that, we remember most eating out is the whole package. It's not the calories on the plate. It's the
yeah.
service, the space, the vibe, the heart and the soul that goes into it. So we've always had this soundbite that we used a lot was we want people to go away feeling full, not full, right?
Right.
I don't want you to be overstuffed with food. I want you to go away feeling emotionally nourished and physically nourished. And so there's that. I want people to, when they go back to work on Monday, tell all their friends about the great experience they had at Bessie North House. I want people to I can't wait to come back and experience another season at Bessie North House. So everything is kind of experience based. And the more and more my Susan and I work at this, we realize that the food is a piece of the puzzle. You get into this thinking it's all about it's the food, it's the food, it's food. It's like, no, the food is a piece of the puzzle. And if it wasn't for what Susan brought to the table on the service side of things and mowing the lawn and keeping the house clean and setting the table up and ironing the napkins and all of the millions of details that have to happen so that when the guest comes in all those touch points are perfect, right? And that people walk away go, that experience was magic, right? And that's kind of like what I want people to walk away feeling. It's like, thank you, I'm really glad you loved the food, but I want you to go away and go, I love the experience.
I love going into a place and going, "You know what? I couldn't have created that. That was something sublime and above and beyond what I think I could have experienced on my own." And that's what I think a lot of us are trying to convey when we do these events. And I love that. Well, I think we've kind of reached the point in the program where I'd like to ask you maybe a little bit of questions about either inspiration and style, technique and craft, industry and mindset. I'm just going to take one from each list. I've got
Okay.
these lists. I've got these, this is one of my first attempts at interviewing people. I used to do a half hour every week with Sheldon McLeod on the news channel a few years ago. So that did help me with sort of developing the questions that I had. But I'm really just a newbie, brother. Like I'm still cooking for a living too. I just thought I wanted to create a hobby that gave me information and helped me out as a chef too. So this has been great. This has been great. But I wanted to ask you, what was the first dish that made you fall in love with cooking? And this could be like as a child, it could be like you were mentioning earlier with your friends that you got together with. Like, what was the one that made you go start to question, I love food more than I think most people would say they enjoy food.
I think the friends that I was cooking with, the wine food guys, they ate vegetarian, they cooked vegetarian, and when I started hanging out with them, I ended up spending 10 years of my life cooking and eating vegetarian, and it was just the way that life happened, right? There's no moral or ethical underpinning to it. It was just that's what I ate. But I can remember when you first I think vegetables sometimes are afterthoughts, but when you realize that you can make something delicious and nutritious and balanced and beautiful, And it was the first like veggie curry when you kind of go, this is magic. Like, I don't want it to end. And it's reflecting back on those early memories of cooking with these guys and actually really appreciating the beauty in food and the impact it can actually have. So it's and I still go to it's my go-to, like, when I wanna make something that really makes me feel good to my core, it's like, it's a chickpea curry, like, I'm not gonna lie to you, and it's magic, like, rice, give me some fresh herbs, give me, make a little, peach chutney on top, and we're done, right? There's just something beautiful about that, and I think it comes from those early memories when I was really starting to spread my wings on the cooking side.
Yeah, I agree. Less is more sometimes, and it's comfort food is that's sort of my go-to, even when I'm doing up my menus. It's something that's approachable. It leaves you with a feeling well-being, but as I've developed my palate and my skills, I tried to create something that maybe was a little over the top. But I don't know. I come and go with that for sure. Okay, so about technique and craft, this is one. Is there a culinary rule that you love to break?
I'm not sure if this is a rule or not, but it's something that I realize that I do a lot, and it's been just in the past couple of years. But I like to take one ingredient on a plate and put it there 3 times, right? It kind of started being a little bit of a giggle for me. It's like, how many times can I put apple on a plate, right? And not make it too contrived, but have it make sense. Like, we're doing a dessert right now where we've got like caramel poached apples, we've got an apple puree, we've got an apple cake, right? And it's all these instances of the same ingredient. And it's a great way to flex the creative muscles. It's a great way to kind of, reimagine the way that food can show up, right? I love being able to give people something they've never had before, but they've had all the time, but not in that state or that context. So I'm not sure if it's really a culinary rule in a lot of respects. I kind of, how many ways or how many times can I put this ingredient on the plate and how many shapes and forms can I give it to you in? And it's kind of a little bit of a playful note, but it's also, a way to kind of, dial up the experience in a lot of respects. So let's call it a culinary rule, and let's say I bust it all the time because it's just fun to do.
I love it. When I first started out in the business, that was the rule, especially if we did any type of culinary competition. You can't reuse an ingredient more than once. That was
Yeah.
almost like that
I guess
classic
it is a rule. Yeah, you're
European.
right.
It was in a way, right? Like, so like it depends on, I guess, what generation you came up through. But I noticed in the 90s, things started to change with that. Chefs were actually starting to highlight certain ingredients and, like you said, flex their creative muscle to show how we can use this beautiful ingredient in different ways, different textures, different styles, what have you. And I love it. I think it's beautiful. So yeah, it really, without knowing or not knowing, depending on if you go the old rule of thumb, like, Escoffier and Larousse or whatever, all
Yeah.
those European things. Yeah, it would have been breaking the rule, but I see that all the time now. So, all right, I got one last question for you, and I want to thank you so much for coming out. How has the chef culture changed since you started out in the business? And I mean, chef culture can mean how has the industry changed? And in fact, I think in some ways you're changing it by your concept with Bessie House or Bessie North House. So what are your thoughts?
I think my short answer is I don't really know, and let me qualify that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just me in the kitchen, right? And it's one of the things, we talked earlier before about, collaborating with other people and whatnot. It's one thing I miss. Like, I would, some days I go, I wish I had like 3 really strong cooks in the kitchen with me so that we could say, I want to do something with cabbage. Let's go. Right. And you create something together. So in a lot of respects, I don't really know what the chef culture is like because I've been out here. We're coming to the end of our 8th season. So I'm a one man show. I spend all the time with me, and if it wasn't for YouTube and Instagram, I would have no idea what's going on in the world of chef culture. That being said, I think there's still a lot of it's the internets of the world, and it is social media that allows you to connect with people like yourselves. Or like there's this fantastic pasta, the chef that makes this beautiful pasta out of Poland, and it's really wild to me that I can get on Instagram and send this guy a message. How did you make that white pasta? And he sent me his recipe. And he watches my stories and he follows me. And it's like he's just this uber talented chef. And I think he actually competes on the Polish culinary team. But he makes his most amazing pasta. I'll send you his account. But it's this whole thing is like I don't really know what's going on chef culture wise because I don't have that. I didn't come up in kitchens. I didn't grow up, I didn't start, washing dishes at my, my uncle's pub, right? I didn't do any of that. Like I started life as an engineer. I entered this late on in my career. And like as I mentioned, I cook alone. So the long and the short of it is I don't really know to answer your question, but I do love the accessibility and kind of unwritten collaboration you can get by just messaging people anywhere around the world, right? It's really fantastic. And, when I'm stuck on something and I see somebody doing something, there's a vegetarian chef in Manchester, UK that we chat back and forth. And it's incredible. Like I have his book. And when I'm stuck on something, I ask him and he messages me back. I'm like, that kind of blows my mind a little bit.
That is when, and it's back to what we talked about earlier. That is when you care about the ingredients and you care about the culture of what we do more
Yeah.
than the ego. It
Yeah.
really is. And I think you nailed it right there without even knowing you nailed it. It's that, yeah, we have a global community now. I kind of look at it back to the old days of the apprentice and the master. I didn't start in that, but if you look at the old brigade system, which I really didn't, I wasn't really part of. It used to be they had a brigade of 5 or how many chefs in the butchery, entremetier, all these classical terms that you learn in about culinary school, but don't necessarily use outside of it. So it has changed. But yes, my experience cooking starting out my apprenticeship was 10-year-old cookbooks and magazines, Bon Appetit and Gourmet, place like that, and you learn from your mentor. But like you said, now you can chat with these chefs who you respect and revere and are just like, and they'll come back to you. That, my friend, in my opinion, is true egoless cooking because I think there was a generation that was like, well, I'm not giving you my recipe. That's mine. Blah, blah, blah. That's not what it's all about. That's not what it's all about. It's really not. And that's what I buy into too. And like even this interview today, we were buddy, we were Instagram friends, and I knew your reputation and followed you, and I reached out and I was so happy you agreed to come on. So thank you, Dave. I
Yeah,
really
you're most
appreciate
welcome.
that.
This has been a really great chat. I was a little nervous. I'm like, why does he want to talk to me? But
I'm the
it's
same way, brother.
yeah,
I'm the same way. I'm like, why would you want to talk to me? I'm just some ham and egger from Dartmouth, but apparently we both are. So
yeah,
that's
and
good.
we're only a couple years apart, so yeah,
Yeah.
so very similar life experiences.
We may have passed each other in the halls of good old PA High.
We
Isn't that
we
something?
totally, I think we totally did. I remember you having a place up in Dartmouth. I can't remember
Yep.
what it was called, but you did sandwiches and you had a large catering
Yeah.
kitchen attached to it.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
used to go there and, get these most amazing pork belly sandwiches from you. Yeah, and, so that was one of my early Richard Julian memories is, like, that pork belly. It was absolute
Wow.
magic.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
You know what? I love that you got it. On the other end of that spectrum, I had one guy phone me up and he says, "Man, your ham sandwiches are some fatty." And I was like, "Okay, how do I traverse this landscape?" But
Yeah.
thank you. Listen, you know what? Thank you so much. I was really proud of that, and it was an interesting time for me because I was going through a transition with my separation, and you know what? It's all a blur now, but
Yeah.
I am grateful for the experience, and we kind of hinted on it too. We learn the most, I think, when we're under adverse conditions. And listen, Dave, it means a lot to me that you enjoyed that because you know what? I often live in a vacuum where I don't necessarily, I'm afraid to peek over and see if people are digging what I'm doing. And
Yeah.
that's something I've taken a long time to overcome. So thank you, brother. I'm really glad we had that full circle on that. That's cool.
Yeah, so bring it back to the pork belly. It's one of my spirit animals, so
Listen,
not
man,
gonna
for
lie to you.
sure. Pork belly's a religion on its own, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, listen, Dave, I can't thank you enough, and I'm going to put up the website for Bessie North House, and I know you're coming to the end of your season, you're booked for the season, but next year, and you guys put up your listings a month out in advance. How it works for the bookings? Okay,
1st of April, yeah, and it's just rolling calendars. The first of every month, we open up the following month.
thank you so much, Dave. I honestly can't thank you enough. You have a great rest of your day, and have good service this week. And that brings us to the end of our very first episode of the Backstage Kitchen Podcast. A huge thank you to Chef Dave Smart for joining us and opening the door to the world he's built with his wife at Bessie North House, a place where the road ends, the field begins, and dinner becomes a memory you carry with you. If you haven't made the pilgrimage yet, you'll find him at 23 Bessie North Road in Canning. Tasting menu, seasonal storytelling, wood smoke, firelight, and a true sense of maritime place. Reserve your seat at bessienorthhouse.com. Next week, the stage shifts, but the creativity stays just as sharp. We'll be sitting down with Mike Turner, guitarist, songwriter, founding member of Our Lady Peace, and one of the architects of modern Canadian alternative rock. We'll dive into the early days of OLP, discuss humanism, the future of AI, as well as the unexpected similarities between the studio session and a dinner service. We'll also talk about Flying Squirrel Motorcycle Company, its latest creative adventure, and yes, we'll get into his cooking because I've shared the kitchen with Mike, and the man can throw down. In the meantime, stay connected with us on Instagram at _backstage_kitchen, on Facebook, the Backstage Kitchen Podcast. And for me and all things culinary, visit me on Instagram at Chef Live or my website, cheflive.ca. Before we go, I want to leave you something special. This is a brand new Christmas track from the always amazing Christina Martin, a voice you'll be hearing on my show very soon. The song is called Sex, Drugs, and Christmas Time, and it's the kind of holiday tune that knows exactly how to spike the eggnog. The track follows a growing collection of holiday songs by Martin: This Christmas, Reason to Celebrate, Coming Back Home for Christmas, and Kisses for Christmas. Make sure to include this and all her songs in your holiday playlist. It's available on major streaming sites. But if you really want to give the gift of giving, buy the track on our website or Bandcamp. Let's support local music. And you can also explore more of Christina's work at christinamartin.net. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 1. I'm Richard. This is the Backstage Kitchen Podcast, and we'll see you next Thursday. Same time, same stage, where food and creativity meet in the spotlight. Now here is Christina Martin and her new song, Sex, Drugs, and Christmas Time. Enjoy the season.
So pretty sequin dress. I like your bow tie and your holiday mess. You know you want this, need this, baby, tonight. Pumping cigars with a boozy drink. We triple sock out the skating rink. You're feeling restless, breathless, baby, tonight. Sex, drugs, Christmas time. Sex, drugs, and love. Tuck all your children away in bed. Sugar plum visions invade their heads while we party naughty, baby, tonight. You pick your poison, I'll spark the tree. Gingerbread ain't the only thing that's sweet. The storm won't stop us, rock us, baby, tonight. Sex, drugs, and Christmas time. Sex, drugs, and love. Preheat the oven, baste the bird till the sunrise glow, until it falls off the bow. We're going down, so let's go down hard. Light up the Rudolph in the neighbor's yard. We're gonna blow up, show up, baby, tonight. You're rocking tinsel while you're on your knees. We're getting lit like a Christmas tree. Unwrapping slowly, holy, baby, tonight. Sex, drugs, and Christmas time. Sex, drugs.